Okay, this is a video where Better Bachelor, from the Better Bachelor, he went on this podcast called Fresh and Fit. And this is actually becoming another really popular podcast too. I've seen a couple of videos from these guys. These guys say some pretty decent things too, but let's listen to what Joker has to say from the Better Bachelor on the Fresh and Fit podcast.
Long time. And you don't get to enjoy your money until you're out $50, $75, $100,000 in school debt. And what happens when they go, it's too much? Hey, yeah. And next thing, they got a savior. What happens if a man gets in trouble? Dude, you're going to work until you're dead or you're homeless and you die in a ditch.
Yeah, he's got a point there. Pretty much, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Society doesn't really care about men. Men are disposable. I think you don't really need, just living life, you kind of start to understand that, particularly as a man. Society does not care about men. We're the disposable sex. That's just how it is. And there's not anything a man can do about that. Nobody cares about you, basically, for the most part.
No one cares. No one cares. Look at the government programs for men. Yeah. Non-existent.
Yeah, and that includes the government. The government just wants the man to be the taxpayer. So pretty much, as a man, if you're down and out, if you want to get any help from the government, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the man than it is for the woman. That's common sense. That's, if you live through life and you look at it, you can see that.
Yep. Yeah. I think I was reading some men, and you're going to tell me if there was a guy that actually.
Yeah, that's common sense too. He's going over the amount of shelters that are for women when it comes to domestic abuse. That goes back, like I said, society doesn't care about men. They care about women. That's been going on since the beginning of time. That's not ever going to change. It's like the example of the drowning or the sinking ship. Women and children go first. You can actually go back to the Bible when the children of Israel coming out of the land of Egypt, we're in Egypt. I can't remember exactly, but what did they say with the boys? They said, kill the boys and keep the girls alive. So that's been going on since the beginning of time. That's not going to change.
The difference is it happens to younger women.
Yeah, I would agree with them on that. I noticed that just living there's a lot of breast cancer awareness, and I have not seen anything about prostate cancer at all. And prostate cancer is a big issue with men. It does happen quite often. Men just have prostate issues, and that's how it is. But he's got a very good point. You don't see anything really about prostate cancer. It's all about breast cancer. But that goes back to what I said. Society doesn't care about men. So that's the evidence. Is it going to change? No, it's not ever going to change. The other thing is too that these guys could talk about that. This is not going to change. That I disagree with them on. He likes to go and tell the women, hey, women, if you want this to change, then you need to do something about that. I don't think that is going to happen. Women are not going to make the change. They're not going to do anything as far as I'm concerned. If you want the changes to be done, it's going to have to be by the men. The men are going to have to put their foot down, but none seem to want to do it. Just because I think it's hardwired into society that men are disposable and women are the protected class. And that's not going to change. Like I said, it's been going on since the beginning of time. Read it in the Bible. When Pharaoh was coming, Pharaoh was talking about the children of Israel. Said, take the boys, kill them. Girls, save them alive.
Like, oh, one in four homeless are women. We need to handle this. It's like, what about the 3/4 that are men?
He's going over the homeless population. He has another good point. The homeless population, if you just go to any city, I've been to a lot of them, the most of them are men. I would say, in my estimate, I would say 85 to 95% of homeless are men. Very few women are out there. You go to Cincinnati, been to Memphis, been to all these other cities. You go to New York, go to LA, and go check it out and just look at reality and say, hey, pay attention to that stuff and go, yeah, these guys are right.
And hate crime because a man hit a woman. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a law they went past them.
Yeah, he does have some good points, is that marriage today for men is very, very risky. Why are men dropping out of the marriage market is because men are looking at it from a risk point of view. I'll use the example for college. It's kind of promoted that men are becoming dumb because they're not going to college men are starting to realize that college is a scam in the most part. So if you're not going to become a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, basically the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math, if you're not going into those fields, college really is a waste of time. So I do agree with him on that. I noticed that back in the 90s. I just started looking at reality, like colleges are in business to make money, and they're making a ton of money off the students. It's a shame. I think it needs to change. If there needs to be any reformation, I think the whole college institution, how everything should work, needs to be changed. But there are people that are getting themselves $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 in debt to either the government or some private lenders. And depending on the circumstances, if they don't get a decent job, they could be an indentured servant, more or less, indentured servant for a long time, depending on how bad the debt is.
60.
Yeah, that's going back to society's standard, how everything is set up, where men are the disposable sex. Society does not care about men, and we protect women and children. So for the crime, women are going to get less time because we protect the women. It's society in general. Is it the right thing to do? Well, if they commit the same crime, they should be getting the same punishment, but that's not going to change. I don't see that changing anytime soon, folks. Not at all. So the best thing to do is to live in the reality of that, especially as a man, and just realize, hey, this is the deal that you were given as being born as a man into today's society. Okay, folks, this is a video where millions of men no longer want to get married, and you can thank the government for that. Only 6.5 men out of 1,000 are dumb enough to get married. So he promotes that marriage is stupid. I think that marriage is, there's a point to being married. If you want to have children, if you want to have a family, the better scenario is to get married, period. So I'm not totally against it, but there's a lot of risk for the men. So let's see what Joker from The Better Bachelor has to say.
And that's the obvious half of it. What they don't get into is women are like really undesirable right now. Like there are many, many women that they're too challenging. They're very unfeminine. They're argumentative. They're entitled, have to do the dance.
I think he's got a good point. When it comes to marriage, I do agree with him. I've been married once. I've done it once. I won't be doing it again. Just from a guy looking in and giving you my opinion, there's just way too much risk to get married again. Unfortunate, and we can thank the government for that. How I look at it is that it's not so much the woman is the issue. It's basically she has the arm of the government to be able to come after you, either through the truth or through a lie. And that, I think that's really where a lot of men are looking at it, is that some women can just basically say whatever they want, and she can destroy a man's life. Literally, she can destroy. So that's how I'm looking at it. I just look at marriage. It's like, I've already done it. I have kids growing up. So I'm like, no. This is something that is way too risky.
It's on the decline, and it's a scary thought. Imagine dating a man for years, cohabitating and giving the relationship.
Yeah, pretty much what the situation is with marriage is men are the gatekeepers to marriage, and women are the gatekeepers to sex. Sex is more readily available for men, but the men don't want to get married because there's too much risk involved. So how do we resolve this? That's a good question. That's a good question. I think it's going to start with at the ground roots level, starting back with the family and things. That's what I think. So do I think it's going to change? No, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Some men could speak up, and they are, like the Better Bachelor, Joker from The Better Bachelor. I just think it's going to continue down until maybe there's going to be something more drastic that's going to happen to society. I think, in my opinion, one of the things that's going to be coming up here probably in the next few decades is the population problem. Kind of like what they're having the issue in Japan, where there's a lot of an aging population where there's a lot of these old people on top and not enough young people on the bottom. I think that's going to be happening here. Now, the United States can mitigate a lot of that because we bring in a lot of immigrants. So we can mitigate a lot of that. So I think the United States is probably, because we do that and bring in immigration, we're going to not have as much of an effect like it is in Japan, because Japan, they don't like bringing in immigrants. So they're really feeling the effects of that. I think that's going to be more of an issue with this whole marriage situation that's going on too. That I think something drastic like that is going to make some changes over a period of time. But that's years down the road.
Ship a statement, move on. Because in many places, the minute you do that, especially if it's up to, I think in some places it's 2 years, other weird places.
He's got a point there. I don't cohabitate with a woman. It's a lot of risk. I did from basically 19, and then I was married, and then I did it all the way up until I was about 36, 37. And I like I said, after you get near that age of 40 as a man, things start changing. You start thinking a lot more clearly as a man. His point is, don't cohabitate and don't get married. That's good advice. However, there's some men that actually want to cohabitate and do want to get married and start a family. So, I mean, what are they telling them? You know, they're not, I mean, you got to have something else here, man. Like you got to go in and say, like, what about the guy that does want to have a family? You know, I mean, you're leaving them out of it. You know, I mean, somebody's going to have a family and have kids and continue the generations to come into the future. So I'm not saying, from my point of view, I think if you want to be completely risk-free, he's saying, this is what he should say. If you want to be completely risk-free, then don't cohabitate and don't get married. But if you do that, there are consequences that come with that. Like, you're not going to be living with a woman, you're not going to get married, you might not have kids, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not really going into that. That's kind of where his argument kind of goes awry a little bit. Now, if it's a gentleman that's a little bit older, say over in his 40s, and has already been through it, maybe already has kids, that sounds like pretty good advice for somebody like that. He's already lived it and maybe experienced a little bit. That would be good advice for him. But these guys that are in their 20s and 30s, or maybe even a guy who's in his early 40s, hasn't even been married yet, and he wants to go out and, hey, I'd like to have a family. He's not giving advice for this guy at all.
They say, no man.
Yeah, that's a thing. He's got a point. You know, I mean, if you do get involved with a woman, you have a child by her. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to be put on child support if you get separated. That's something that, you know, you wanted to be aware of. But look, here's the deal is that, like, if you have a child with a woman, then you are responsible for at least paying something or contributing something to that. Is it skewed in favor of the woman? Yes, it is. You know, so I don't think it's like these astronomical child support payments. You have to be making a lot of money to be making these huge payments. But I've been through it. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward. You put at the top, there's a document. It says, okay, here's the ex-wife's income. Here's the ex-husband's income. Already had their divorce, and they go through the numbers, and then this is what you pay. You know, does she have the kids 90% of the time, or 100% of the time, or 50% of the time, and do you know, et cetera. You have the kids over here, and they run through the numbers, and then they come up with this number. It's pretty straightforward. It's not unreasonable to me. Sometimes it can get unreasonable. You can get screwed over in it, but you have to be proactive. If you go through this system of child support, you need to be proactive, learn the system, and learn how they are figuring these things out. If you go into these where they can just start picking numbers randomly, that's where guys get into trouble. That's where guys think, in my opinion, guys get in trouble is they start randomly picking numbers out there. Oh, you know what? You can make $450,000 a year, so you owe this much child support. Well, you need to be aware of something like that, because they're saying any guy could make $450,000 a year or something like that. So that's where the biggest issues come from, where I see it just through my own experience.
Matrimony, your life.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing I want to go over. I want to conclude this and finish this up, but like being happy, look, just going through life, you know, you can't be happy all the time. I mean, part of life is going through struggles. That's how you grow. That's important to go through that and realize when you go through life, you can't be happy all the time. You know, when I was in my 20s, I think I was more thinking along the lines where, oh my gosh, you know what? I need to be just have a party all the time, be happy all the time. That's a bunch of crap. Life doesn't work like that. You have to, with happy is sadness. That's why there's sadness. If you are striving to try to be happy all the time, it's not real. It's not real at all. So go through those dips or valleys, whatever you want to call them, and look forward to them and learn like, hey, man, especially as a man, the women are a different story. They're thinking, oh, this is going to be grandstanding and happy all the time. They should realize too that life sucks and be going through those valleys. So that's basically, if you're going to be looking for a woman, in my opinion, look for one that understands something like that. Now, granted, are they difficult to find? Yes, they are difficult to find, but that's what you keep your eye out for, in my opinion. So I wanted to include this video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you. Hit subscribe, hit the like button or hit the dislike button, leave a comment, good or bad, doesn't matter. Again, thanks for watching. Take care. See you in the next video.